Welcome to In Pursuit of Truth. This is your host, Sir Patrick Mac. Boys and girls, we got some serious stuff to talk about today, so grab your coffee, fist bump your neighbor, and we're going to get started right away on these two new Q posts that we just got. 3883, which is 11:11, 27 minutes after the hour of 4. A non-post, this from CNBC, and here is the actual tweet. Breaking: Disney CEO Bob Iger to step down. Bob Chapek will be the CEO of Disney immediately. And I screenshotted the tweet below from CNBC that says shares of Disney fall after hours on news that Bob Iger is stepping down as Disney CEO, effective immediately. And that's exactly what the Anon is saying here. Many sources confirming now, live on Fox too. He's not CEO anymore though, and is leaving earlier than his contract says he should. Q says the silent war continues. So we've seen quite a bit of this, and we've talked about Disney for quite some time. Bob Iger as well. And actually on the CNBC tweet, there is an attached video, and of course I will get hit for copyright for playing you this video, but I am going to play you a video from Fox. Check it out.
Bob Iger has just announced at the Walt Disney Company that he'll be stepping down as the chief executive officer. Bob Chapek, Chapek, named as the chief executive officer at Disney. Iger will stay on, assuming a role of executive chairman through the year 2021. That's an after-hours quote, up 0.25% on Disney. So in the middle of everything else, we have one of the best-known corporate executives in America stepping down, and a change at the top at the Walt Disney Company is coming up. Sorry to interrupt you, Liz. We get Gary maybe huge. Jump in on this as well. Quick reaction to that and what we've seen in the market today. What do you think, Gary?
Well, first off, on Iger, is that immediately stepping down, or is this
He's
over
going to stay
the
on
next
as as I said, as executive chairman through 2021. I believe stepping down as CEO. I believe that is an immediate move, but
he will direct the company's creative endeavors. It says it resumes the role of executive chairman through 2021.
Right, but the new CEO will take over.
Okay, so I'm not exactly sure about this executive director role through 2020. It's not like this guy has been arrested, so I'm not yet ready to celebrate, but it is big news that he is stepping down. Now, Iger's been a pretty successful guy. He helped negotiate the Shanghai, China Disneyland, and that took him nearly 20 years to do. He's put in a lot of work for Disney, but he has also long been suspect, as has the company, who has been rife with sexual abuse allegations over the years. And I am just showing you a handful of headlines over the years. There's been a lot of notables. Most recently, we had this very strange death of this girl, Nikita Pearl Waligwa. She was only 15 years old, and she passed away of a brain tumor, but it was a very strange circumstance. And she was a Disney star. And we also had the accusations of Jordan Pruitt, who had accused his manager, Keith Thomas, over the years of sexual abuse and then ended up dead. You have Bella Thorne, also a former child Disney star. Then you had the Disney music executive who was, he ended up getting charged with multiple accounts. His name was John Healy. You also had Michael Laney, who was the former vice president of Walt Disney Pictures and Television. He was sentenced to more than 6 years. There was also this guy, Edward George Ganster. He was a Catholic clergyman, and he ended up getting wrapped up in a sex abuse scandal, and he was trying to get into Disney World. So Disney has long had a lot of these issues, and it seems like their big guy just stepped down. Now, some of you were pointing out this interview from September of 2019 from the New York Slime by Maureen Dowd. She was interviewing Bob Iger about a number of things: the Star Wars attraction, the Shanghai Disneyland, like I was just talking about. And she mentions this right here: you avoid carbs except pizza, which you try to get anywhere in the world. And he says correct. And then she goes on to ask about David Portnoy's pizza reviews, who does very famous pizzeria reviews around the world. Now, yes, it is a little bit curious. I don't want to say it's at all damning. Let's face it, a lot of people like pizza, especially on their cheat day, but we also know that that is a code for people who like them a little bit young, for those who don't know what pizza means. There's a reason why they called Pizzagate Pizzagate. So it is curious, and like I said, it's not necessarily damning, but given these circumstances, I do think it's worth pointing out. And hopefully one of these days we can take back the symbolism of pizza and make pizza great again. Because pizza is delicious, and kids should not be afraid of pizza. But that's me on my soapbox. Well, it looks like Iger is not the only one to step down. We also have Ajay Bongo with MasterCard. He is actually Citigroup's Asian Chief Operations Manager, and he is now stepping down. He is also big time into global currency. He is not a big fan of nationalism or Trump, probably because it gets in the way of his global currency ambitions. Anyway, he's stepping down. He was part of this Facebook Libra project. He did pull MasterCard out of that, citing security concerns. He had some problems with Mark Zuckerberg. Surprise, surprise. But he was all part of that, and now he has stepped down. We also have this from local10.com. Thanks to Bianon, who sent me this one here. FBI raids Canadian fashion mogul following sex abuse claims. Federal authorities raided the Manhattan headquarters of the Canadian fashion mogul Peter Nygaard. A search that came amid claims he trafficked and sexually assaulted dozens of teenage girls and women. The FBI searched the designer's Times Square offices Tuesday, less than 2 weeks after 10 women filed a lawsuit accusing Nygaard of enticing young and impoverished women to his estate in the Bahamas with cash and promises of modeling opportunities. Several plaintiffs in the suit said they were 14 or 15 years old when Nygaard gave them alcohol or drugs and then raped them. Okay, so this article goes on to talk about some ugly stuff. And I'm going to skip this, but I remember that a while back, this guy was in a big row with a billionaire. And I think they talk about it in this article. His name is Louis Bacon. Let's skip some of the ugly stuff right here. And let's take you down here. Authorities also executed a search and seizure on Nygaard's offices in California. Okay, so it wasn't just New York. They also went in his offices in California. He blamed the raids on a conspiracy involving Louis Bacon, the billionaire hedge fund manager who owns an estate next door to Nygaard's in the Bahamas. Yeah, this has been going back and forth with the two of them for quite some time. As a matter of fact, Nygaard was accused of a murder for hire plot, which they don't mention in this. The New York Times reported Saturday that Bacon has been involved in an epic battle with Nygaard involving tens of millions of dollars and more than 24 lawsuits. Yeah, one of them being that murder for hire. The newspaper described Nygaard's home in the Bahamas, where the women allegedly were assaulted, as a lush retreat with sculptures of roaring lions and a human aquarium where topless women undulated in mermaid tails. Okay, creepy indeed. Okay, so lots of CEO resignations this week. We had Nike and Under Armour both have CEOs resign. Now Iger from Disney, and of course Bonga from MasterCard. We have the raid on Nygaard, and we also have the CEO of Salesforce stepping down. That is Keith Block. He used to be with Oracle, and now he has stepped down. This is Salesforce.com right here. They are a cloud-based software company, pretty big company, and it looks like this Mark Benioff is now going to be their CEO. But we've got a lot of big people wrapped up with Salesforce over the years, and real quick, I just wanted to point out a couple of curious ones down here. We see right here on the board of directors, we've got Colin Powell. How about that? But it gets even more interesting. Let's go down a little bit further, all the way to the bottom. Wait a minute, who is that? Susan Wojcicki. No, if it's got Susan Wojcicki involved, I don't want any part of it. And I think most of you who follow my channel for long enough know exactly who that is. CEO of YouTube and sister of Ann Wojcicki from over there at that DNA data collection company 23andMe. Used to be married to Sergey Brin from Alphabet. It's all connected. They all want your data. Anyway, let's move on to 3884. 54 minutes after the hour of 4. We get taken back to this post from the 25th of, it's February 2019, post 2871. And these were a couple of tweets from comedian Patton Oswalt. He's a comedian, he's an actor, he's a voice actor, and these tweets here are from a while back, 2013, and I'm not going to read the whole one here because it's a little bit crass. I'll let you guys read it there, but I do want to point out, at least with the first tweet, it appears that this guy is simply making a joke. He is a comedian, keep in mind, but I think what he was really pointing out is that the word PEDO usually refers to people who have a fetish with feet, whereas PAEDO is the term for the people who like the kitties. But either either way, he has put up some really creepy tweets over the years. So although I may give him a pass on that one, some of his other ones are pretty suspect. But that's what this post was about. And Q had said, who will be the next to fall post Weinstein? And of course, Weinstein now was transferred right out of court straight to the hospital, which was also very suspect. Now, I've not heard the latest at the time of making this video, but literally right from court, they put him in an ambulance, strapped him down, and took him to the hospital, which is very creepy. Q says, big name coming, nobody is safe. DRK2LYT. These people are sick. And then we have a very curious PNG title. And Q says, now isn't that interesting?
Got a flashback aside, take you back,
Okay, so Q posting a year ago today talking about some big names, and indeed we saw some big names. Now, I do want to point out that CEOs do step down quite a bit, but we've had a record number of CEOs step down ever since President Trump took office. And of course, given the nature of Disney's suspect connections, I think we can assume that there are some big things going on along with this raid of Nygaard, who is a very big fashionista, if you will. Now, in regards to this guy, Patton Oswalt, obviously a lot of people have ridden him online about his creepy tweets, and rightfully so. They are pretty suspect. He has also done some Disney stuff himself, a lot of voiceover work and things like that. He's a voice actor, so he's been involved in some Disney work, but the reason I took you back is because I want to share this story from 2018. It's actually a much older story, but the article is from 2018 from NPR. And this is in regards to the Golden State Killer. And this person actually had a number of nicknames. For those of you who do not live in the United States, California is known as the Golden State, so that's what they're referring to. But this is from NPR, 2018. A day after authorities announced the arrest of the suspected Golden State Killer, a few details have come into focus. A can of dog repellent and a hammer from a suburban Sacramento Pay 'n Save, the things that Joseph James D'Angelo shoplifted in 1979, costing him his job as a police officer in Auburn, California. The coins and small items that the man then called the East Area rapist would take during his attacks. The as yet unidentified item discarded by D'Angelo that had a sample of his DNA on it, enough to provide the evidence leading to his arrest. Now, let me skip you down a little bit here. The 72-year-old from Citrus Heights, California, here's a little picture of him right here, has now been charged with 8 murders in 3 California counties. Police suspect he committed at least 4 other murders and about 50 rapes. The crimes terrorized Sacramento in the late 1970s, FBI case agent Marcus Knudsen said in a 2016 video. If you lived in Sacramento during that time frame, you have a story of what happened and where you were and what was going on, Knudsen said. Everybody knows about East Area rapist / Golden State Killer here in Sacramento. During that time frame, everybody was in fear. We had people sleeping with shotguns. We had people purchasing dogs. I think locksmith's business went way out of control because of the fact that everyone was changing locks on their door. So, who is Joseph D'Angelo? D'Angelo was born in New York State and graduated from high school east of Sacramento. He enlisted in the Navy and fought in Vietnam, then returned and got a bachelor's degree in criminal justice. From 73 to 76, he worked as a police officer in Exeter, California, close to the city of Visalia, which in 1974 and 1975 was terrorized by 85 burglaries and a murder, a series of crimes attributed to a perpetrator known as the Visalia Ransacker. Visalia 1976, D'Angelo became a police officer in Auburn, California, until his termination for shoplifting. He married in 1973, later divorced, and was living with a daughter and granddaughter until he was arrested this week. The time frame of the crime supports that the suspect was a police officer when he committed some of these crimes, said Sean Reagan, special agent in charge of the FBI Sacramento office. Okay, the B compiled a long list of the crimes associated with the Golden State Killer, or as he was previously known, the East Area Rapist, or the original Night Stalker. The majority of the rapes occurred in the years while D'Angelo was a police officer, but from the December 1979 to May 1986, 10 people in California were killed in murders later tied to the East Area Rapist. Okay, so Patrick, why are you telling me about this old case? Well, let me show you down here. Writer Michelle McNamara became obsessed with the case, and she started the True Crime Diary website. Earlier this year, McNamara's posthumously published book on her search for the killer, I'll Be Gone in the Dark. I'll Be Gone in the Dark became a bestseller. It's slated to be turned into an HBO docuseries, and it since has. As a matter of fact, they caught this guy right after this came out, oddly enough. Sacramento County Sheriff Scott Jones said they used DNA evidence from a discarded item to link D'Angelo with samples the killer had left behind years ago. Now, thanks to the work of this obsessed writer, Michelle McNamara, they were able to find and arrest Joseph James D'Angelo, otherwise now known as the Golden State Killer. They arrested him on April 25th, 2018. Now, they've been looking for this guy for 32 years, but it was just months after the publication of this book that they were actually able to find him, thanks to this Michelle McNamara. Well, sadly, Michelle McNamara died before the publication of her own book. She died in her sleep on April 21st, 2016, in her family's Los Angeles, California home. According to the autopsy report released online by Radar, her death was attributed to the effects of multiple drugs, including Adderall and alprazolam, otherwise known as Xanax, and fentanyl. Atherosclerotic cardiovascular disease was also a contributing factor. But here's the kicker. The coroner ruled it an accidental overdose. She is interred at Forest Lawn Memorial Park in Los Angeles. Okay, so she died before being able to publish this damning work that arrested a guy who basically terrorized an entire community for 32 years. And I just want to show you her cover right there. Now, this since has been made into an HBO documentary. Note the evergreen trees in the foreground. So is this part of the dark that's coming to light? Some of the information that might have been released in this book? And why was it that this person that was working so hard to take somebody else down would be doing so many kinds of drugs like this and ruled an accidental overdose? Seems a little bit sketchy, doesn't it? Almost as sketchy as knowing that one of the people that helped her finish the book is one Patton Oswalt, who also happens to be her husband. Yeah, that's right. April 26, 2018, the day after Joseph James D'Angelo was arrested, he tweeted this: "Good night, Michelle. You did good. You aimed a light and helped the hunters catch a monster." Now, I got to move on because Q is slapping me upside the head with more late posts, but I want to point out a couple of things. Here is one of the shots from one of the crime scenes of the Golden State Killer, and as you'll notice, a red rope right there for one of his victims. Oddly enough, we've talked a lot about red leashes, red ropes, red shoes, red purses, all kinds of weird red stuff. And if you're not familiar with what we're talking about, I suggest that you check out my video entitled Very Good Boy. This will explain a lot of these cryptic dog tweets and a lot of the significance of, like the Kate Spade murders, another fashionista, and red scarves, and what all that significance has. I think a lot of you people already understand that, but if you don't, check out my video entitled Very Good Boy. Now, I also want to point this out. This is a tweet from CBS Sacramento's Anna Giles, who said, "A new hope for justice in San Joaquin County. The sheriff wants to reopen hundreds of cold cases. A new unit has been created. Detectives hope advanced DNA testing will lead to suspects, like it helped police arrest the suspected Golden State Killer." Okay, now, this Golden State Killer, after he was arrested, they pulled a very similar thing like they're doing with Weinstein. If you notice, Weinstein's walking in now all of a sudden with this walker. All of a sudden he's old and decrepit. They did the same thing with the Golden State Killer. They put him in a wheelchair, and I thought that was really, really interesting. Here's a couple of other interesting things too. I mentioned that Patton worked for Disney, did some voiceovers for Disney. He was also seen with his new wife at Disneyland just less than it was about a year after this McNamara died. He kind of came out with his new wife, and they celebrated out, oddly enough, at Disneyland. And Patton Oswalt was in the movie Ratatouille, where he played this rat, and the rat was named Remy. I've covered the name Remy quite a bit in a lot of these odd dog tweets. Hint, hint, wink, wink. Go back and check out my Very Good Boy and all my dog series videos if you want to know more about that. But here was one in particular from the NSA in regards to a Remy. We covered quite a few dogs named Remy. It's a pretty common dog name, but we saw this in a lot of these cryptic dog tweets, and I found that very, very interesting. One more interesting thing is that Harvey Weinstein has a daughter named Lily, and she's in her 20s, and her nickname is also Remy. Probably just a coincidence. Let's move on. Post 3885, 28 minutes after the hour of 11, we get a National Review article. Q says these people are sick, and it takes you to an article from last year to the day, February 25th. By a vote of 53 to 44, the Senate has failed to pass the Born Alive Abortion Survivors Protection Act, which would have required doctors to provide medical care to infants born alive after an attempted abortion procedure. The bill, sponsored by Senator Ben Sasse of Nebraska and co-sponsored by 49 of his fellow Republican senators, needed 60 votes to overcome the legislative filibuster. Just 3 Democratic senators crossed the aisle to vote with Republicans in favor of the legislation: Bob Casey Jr. of Pennsylvania, Joe Manchin of West Virginia, and Doug Jones of Alabama. And it points out that all 6 of the Democratic senators currently running for the 2020 presidential nomination voted against the bill. Keep in mind, this was February of last year. Cory Booker, Sherrod Brown, Kirsten Bilderbrand, Kamala Harris, Amy Klobuchar, and Elizabeth Dances with Wolves Warren, along with independent Bernie Sanders of Vermont. And then at the bottom here, it talks about Matsi Hirona, who says reducing access to safe abortion care would threaten the health of women in Hawaii, says Matsuyoko Hirono of Hawaii. Okay, well, Q says these people are sick. That was last year. Now we get this article here in 3886, 41 minutes after the hour 11, another National Review article. This time it is from February 25th, 2020. Democrats block Born Alive Abortion Survivors Protection Act in the Senate. 41 Democratic senators voted this afternoon to block the Born Alive Abortion Survivors Protection Act, successfully filibustering the legislation and preventing it from receiving a final vote. The bill would have required doctors to provide standard medical care to newborn infants who survive abortion procedures. Okay, so this is very, very sad, and I imagine this will be a talking point, particularly with Elizabeth Warren, Klobuchar, and Bernie Sanders. What they're saying right here in the article, 3 senators who are running for president did not vote. And of course, they didn't vote likely because they don't want to have this aimed against them by somebody like Trump. But we know that they supported it because they voted against the legislation last February. And I have a feeling that's what Q is kind of pointing out here. But very sad, very sick indeed. Let's move on to 3887. 59 minutes after the hour of 11, we get a Twitter status to Inevitable IET, who is now a Twitter all-star. And he says it's going to be biblical. Revelations 9:3. Then out of the smoke came locusts upon the earth, and power was given them as the scorpions of the earth have power. Saudi Arabia, and they were showing more of this. We were talking about this on Twitter the other day. Look at all those locusts, just like they were talking about at the end of the Bible. That is some creepy stuff. Q says, finally be strong in the Lord and in his mighty power. Put on the full armor of God so that you can take your stand against the devil's schemes. For our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the powers of this dark world, and against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly realms. Therefore, put on the full armor of God so that when the day of evil comes, you may be able to stand your ground. And after you have done everything to stand, stand firm then with the belt of truth buckled around your waist, with the breastplate of righteousness in place, and with your feet fitted with the readiness that comes from the gospel of peace. In addition to all this, take up the shield of faith with which you can extinguish all the flaming arrows of the evil one. Take the helmet of salvation and the sword of the Spirit, which is the word of God, and pray in the Spirit on all occasions with all kinds of prayers and requests. With this in mind, be alert and always keep on praying for all the Lord's people. Q, indeed. And Q is reminded this of often. And I think we all know that this is indeed a fight of good and evil. And this isn't just about politics anymore, is it? Let's move on to 3888. 4 minutes after the hour of 12, we get taken back to post 2904, and we see this right here again. This was from back on February 26, 2019. So it looks like it could very well be another proof, a future proves past kind of proof. It's labeled 2904, which is the number of the Q post. And again, February 26th of 2019. Now it's already the 26th for me. And for many of you, by the time you're watching this, this will be the 26th. So do we have a proof coming up? We shall see, but hopefully it will be biblical. Let's move on to 3889. 9 minutes after the hour 12, we get this sweet picture right here. We got an Anon standing in front of this poster. Then you got Modi and you got President Trump and Melania Trump. And he says, where we go one, we go all. Very cool. The Indian folks showed up in full force to support our POTUS. And it's been pretty exciting to watch. Obviously, there's a lot of trade deals that still need to be worked out. But it is a really, really exciting time to see so many people filling that beautiful new stadium to support our POTUS. And, of course, for their prime minister, too. It's been a pretty exciting time. And I've really been enjoying watching this. If you've been following me on Twitter, you've probably caught up with some of this, and I'm sure many of you guys have seen the videos. This says, thanks for the wonderful visit, Q and Q+. Love, respect, and support from India. Well, congratulations to you, Anon. Even if you can't show your face, we're pretty supportive of you. Where we go one, we go all. Q says, love and light, Patriot. Have faith and trust in yourself. Where we go one, we go all. So congrats, Anon. Let's move on over here to 38901212. And we got a picture of these gentlemen right here holding up that flag. Boy, I wonder if that's going to be a marker or not. Then we got a really interesting PNG title right there. Q says, Godspeed, Q. So is this a precursor for something to come? Who knows? But buckle up. These are all some late posts, obviously, because I imagine because Q+ is over there in India. So I imagine the time has caused for some different timing posts here. But indeed, Godspeed to you, soldiers. And for the rest of you, those are your Q posts. All right, Patriots, that's all I got for you today. I got to wrap this up so I can get it out for you so that you can have a video today. As always, if you like this video, please click like, share, and subscribe. And thanks to all of you who do that already. Thanks to all of you who've been joining me over here at BitChute. We are almost to 20,000 subscribers over here already. Very, very cool. This link will be down below in the video description. My DropSpace, my Brighteon, and all my other channels. I don't know where they are. They're all linked down below. My P.O. box is down below. My email is down below if you've got information to share. And my Patreon is linked down below too if you'd like to support the channel. It's all linked down below in the video description. And I am out of here. Until next time, stay funky.